Welcome everyone to our Creating a Bright Future Zoom. So excited to have you all here tonight. My name is Adam Buchner and I'm an Executive Sales Director with Nutramatics. Welcome everyone to our Creating a Bright Future. And I am playing in the background, so we will stop that and come back.
It's so wonderful to have you all online tonight to listen to a very, very exciting guest speaker. And I will ask Adam to introduce our fabulous speaker tonight. Over to you, Adam.
Yes. So for anyone that is joining us for the first time for Creating a Bright Future, this is a idea put together by ESDs and above, so the top leaders in the business, and its purpose is to really inspire and educate from the very best leaders in Nutramatics as they share their wisdom, their journey with Nutramatics, and really their lessons and their learnings. So this is for anyone that wants to step up, to elevate to group leader, and to come along to Queenstown. We've got some excited. When I said Queenstown, I think someone got excited, which is great. But I would love to really introduce our guest speaker for tonight, Presidential Director Michael Buechner, who's been with Nutramatics for over 40 years and leads a multi-million-dollar Nutramatics business. Is currently the first to drive a Nutramatics Tesla Model 3 performance as well. And gosh, that car is fast. So if you ever have the opportunity to test drive that car, or if you're in the vicinity of Michael Buechner, would definitely recommend seeing that beautiful vehicle. In case you haven't guessed, Michael Buechner is my father, and Dad has always inspired me to live life to the fullest. He's definitely instilled in me a love for adventure, from water skiing and wakeboarding to snow skiing and jumping off cliffs, and really for dreaming big as well. And I know you'll hear some of that tonight. So I appreciate you so much, Dad, for taking your time, for joining us. And I'd like to welcome to the Zoom stage, Michael Buechner.
Thank you, Adam. Can you hear me fine?
Yes, we can. Okay,
great. I was going to say the only thing scarier than a new Tesla is to sit in the passenger seat when Adam's driving it. It's pretty scary. I thought along the same lines as Peggy last month, I thought I would tell you a little bit about me first. And that is that I was born in Germany way back in 1953, which makes me now 68 years old. And my parents decided to migrate to Australia in 1959. And they decided to come to Australia because Australia only cost $10 per person to come. We were going to go to Canada, but that was $50 per person and they couldn't afford that. So we came to Australia. And I've told many, many people now that we arrived on Australia Day in 1960. And that's why it's called Australia Day, because the Buchners arrived in Australia in 1960. We came by boat. We came on an old Sitmar cruise liner called the Castel Felice through the Suez Canal. Took 5 weeks to get here. And it was an amazing trip. I still remember the camels and the pyramids and what have you going through there. We lived in the Villawood migrant camp for a little while before my parents both got work, and we soon moved to half a house in Casula, which is near Liverpool. I might tell you that when we arrived, my mum and dad had 4 children, aged between about 10 and 2. And 1 suitcase and very little in the way of money. So similar to Louise's story, we came from a very poor background. We very quickly became Aussies, though. I think Europeans, certainly back in those days, assimilated into the Australian way of life very quickly. And the old cliche about football meets pies, kangaroos and Holden cars was very much us. We used to go to the kangaroo park in Castle Hill, and we drove a Holden, and my dad loved meat pies and the football. So it was really amazing. I went to Liverpool Boys High School that I enjoyed very much. I played lots of sports, including rugby, soccer and basketball. Cricket was a downfall though, and I've told Adam this story, I'm sure, because we used to have to walk from the high school to the cricket oval to play cricket, and halfway along that journey was a pool hall. And the guy in the pool hall used to hide us there so that we could play pool in the afternoon in the cool shade rather than in the Australian sun. When I was 16, I sat for an entrance examination to the Commonwealth Bank, and because I had decided that it was time for me to go to work. So they accepted me straight away, offered me a job, and I thought about taking it for a while. And then I thought, it's probably better that I finish my schooling. So I knocked it back and I said to them, no, I'm going to go and finish my high school certificate and go back to school. This turned out to be an interesting choice because I found myself sitting in a maths class, I remember, at the high school, where the teacher was throwing chalk around the room, trying to hit as many kids in the head as he could, because he was a terrible teacher and he wasn't engaging with the students at all. So I decided one day that it was time for me to leave school and go back to getting a job. So I rang the Commonwealth Bank and I said, you offered me a job about 6 months ago. Is it still there? And they said, when would you like to start? So on the 2nd of June in 1970, I joined the Commonwealth Bank in their head office in Martin Place in Sydney. I had a wonderful career in the Commonwealth Bank. I seemed to follow a succession of idiots, which always makes you look good if you're following somebody before you that's an absolute dill. And had great times. I remember working in Forest Place in Perth during the time of the America's Cup elimination trials and travelling around the countryside with the courtesy of the Commonwealth Bank. I had a lovely, lovely time. So that was just short of my 17th birthday, just after my 17th birthday when I joined the Commonwealth Bank. Shortly after that, I went to a dance in Cabramatta, and I went with a girl called Lynn, and Lynn was one of 6 sisters that lived in a house just down the road from us, and I'd been interested in going out with about 3 of the girls, and I went to a dance with Lynn, but it obviously wasn't to be because I'm not sure whether she dumped me or whether we just parted company during the night, but somehow or other, I remember coming home with a girl called Louise. I think it was in your parents' car, Louise, if I remember correctly. I think I had lost my license at the time because I had my own car and I was already driving. Excuse me. So I went home with Louise. Shortly afterwards, Louise invited me to her 16th birthday, and 3 years later, we were married. We built our first home together in a place called St Andrews, which is near Campbelltown, built a brand new house. And we both went on with our careers. We did a trip through Europe for 8 weeks and had a wonderful time, and came home, and I went back to my career in the Commonwealth Bank, and Louise was a public servant at the time for the New South Wales Police Department. And we didn't have any children, and we were both busily working away, building our careers. Excuse me. Then one fateful day, Louise asked me to drive her to Cambridge Park, which is near Penrith, to go to a Nutramatics party. And it was to be held by her her girlfriend from school, Michelle. And like all good husbands, I said to her at the time, don't spend too much money, dear, and whatever you do, don't book one of those silly parties. Do you remember? And what I didn't know, of course, was that the consultant on that day was a wonderful lady called Terry Jones. And Terry Jones is Presidential Ambassador Vicky Reeves' mum. And Terry at the time was driving a beautiful white Jaguar XJS as her company car. She had just received a fur coat, which was still in vogue back in those days, and a $10,000 diamond ring. And I remember Terry used to start her shows back in those days when she arrived, saying to the hostess, can I have a cup of coffee, please? And can you get me an ashtray? And that was her introduction to a Nutrametics party. How'd you like to do that today? So, of course, when I picked up Louise had a smile on her face, and I said, you did it, didn't you? You did it. You booked one of those shows. And, of course, she had booked a show. She had no chance of not booking with Terry Jones. because she was very good at her art and her work. But 2 weeks later, when Terry was to arrive at our new home in St Andrews, where Louise had a group of lovely girls waiting for Terry at the time, she didn't turn up. And it was about, I think it was about half an hour later, instead of a beautiful white XJS driving up the street, there was an old bomb grey HD Holden pulled up in front of our house. And a lady got out and she said, "Hi, I'm here to do your Nutramatics party." And what had happened was that Terry Jones had given her show away. So she either decided that Louise was never going to amount to anything in Nutramatics, or it was just too far for her to go to Campbelltown, or perhaps she just doubled or triple booked that day, and so she gave the show away to one of her consultants. Excuse me. Now, over the years, the fact that Louise turned out to be one of the most successful presidential directors in that 30 or 40 years in Nutramatics, that would have cost Terry Jones a pretty penny, I'm sure, because Louise, when she eventually joined with that woman. She didn't join with Terry Jones at all. So we've gotten to that. So as I was going to say, little did you know what Louise was going to amount to. I should tell you, I shouldn't tell you Louise's story. Louise can tell you her own story, but I'll tell you the story from here on from my point of view, and that is that I was quite negative at the beginning, like a lot of husbands are. I thought this was going to be girls playing with lipsticks. I didn't think that it was ever going to amount to anything sizable, and I thought I was relatively smart at the time, and I thought if I try and talk Louise out of it, she'll only want to do it all the more. So I thought, just leave her alone, let her play with her lipsticks and whatever, and she'll soon forget about it and put the case in the bathroom and we'll get on with our normal lives. And thank heavens that didn't happen, because Louise did fall in love with Nutramatics and eventually left her career with the state government, with the police department, and never ever looked back from the time that she joined Nutramatics. She fell in love with it, and she's been, as you all know, she's been very, very good at it. Eventually, after a few years, I found that as we were presented with brand new company cars and we were getting more and more money from Nutramatics, I came to the realization that this actually was a wonderful opportunity, and it was all of the things that it was said to be. So my negativity sort of waned, and I got more and more involved in the business. And in 1988, after 18 years in the Commonwealth Bank, I decided that it was time for me to resign from the bank, to retire, and to come into the business full time with Louise. It took some talking, mind you. It took some convincing to allow her to have me come into the business full time with her. But it was around about the time that Ricky, our first son, went to school, and I thought one of the most positive things that I could do for Louise is to help her with all of those chores that a woman normally does, that would take her away from her Nutramatics career and perhaps slow her growth in the business. So I decided to join her in the business. We sat down, we had a board meeting, and we decided what our responsibilities were going to be. And of course, with a banking background, it sort of fell in my lap that I should be involved with the monetary side of the business. So we decided that I could do the ordering for Louise, the packing of the product for Louise, the deliveries or the posting of the product, the banking of the money, the keeping the accounts, and all of those things that freed up Louise to do those things that built a business, which of course is to go out there and sell and sponsor and develop people. So it seemed to work very well. We had a few mentors during that time, I remember. I think Louise would probably agree that her first mentor was Vicky Reeve back in those days, and Vicky and Max were doing very, very well in Nutramatics at the time, and we had the opportunity of staying with them up on the North Coast for a time and saw how much they were earning. And Vicky was a very bright cookie too. She said to me, Michael, I've got a delivery that needs to be done. That my brand new Celica's parked outside. Would you like to go and deliver this product for me? And that was actually to Iris Waters at Foster's hospital, at the Foster Hospital. So she was a very smart cookie in getting us more and more involved in the business. Later on, for a time also, we had Roger and Naomi as our mentors, and we seemed to follow them in the business. Roger and Naomi were the biggest of all time in Nutramatics. They're the people that I remember had a $2 million month in Nutramatics. Imagine having a business that turns over $2 million in a month. And things all came together. We ended up buying premises. We had staff. We had a huge organisation, and we together built a business that turned over $6.5 million a year, and that was quite some time ago. So it was a reasonable amount of money then. And an opportunity came along for us to buy a second Nutramatics business, because there was a wonderful couple in the business called Monica and Paul Fafita who wanted to retire. And we actually spent $540,000 buying a second Nutramatics PD-ship. Back in those days, it was probably a senior regional directorship or whatever. And that business repaid its investment in full in less than 3 years. So it was absolutely wonderful, one of the best business decisions we ever made. And of course, we also took over the management of Ruth Farrell's business, because Ruthie was about ready to retire back in those days. And she was a very, very smart cookie in that she didn't want to sell her business. She wanted to keep all of the wonderful things that come with being a senior person in Nutramatics. And she asked whether we would manage her business. So we took over the management of her business. She continued to have beautiful company cars and trips overseas. And on more than one occasion, we would be sitting together at international seminar in a hotel somewhere, and Ruth would win a trophy for something or other. And she would say to me, Michael, what was that for? And it was true to the words, isn't it? Yep, it was wonderful. So we effectively had 3 Nutramatics businesses. They were turning over $16.5 million a year at that time, and things were going really, really well. Things were wonderful. Let me see what I've got here. We've had the most wonderful, what I consider to be the most wonderful life for many, many of those years. We've had a wonderful income. We've had the most magnificent array of company cars. We've been to some of the most beautiful places in the world, stayed in some of the most beautiful hotels in the world, including the #1 hotel in the world. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful journey. So what I thought I would do now is tell you why and how we got there, and how you might be able to get there as well, or surpass what we've done in the business, because it's there for anybody who wants to do it. So my thoughts are, the obvious one is work. The reason we were as successful as we were is because Louise is a very, very hard worker. She still today works as a consultant and does everything that she expects anybody in her team to do. She's wonderful at leading by example and by having more faith in others than they have doubts in themselves. That's probably the single most important reason why we were as successful as we are. What I would suggest to you, but that you might need to do if you want to be as successful as we were, is first of all, you've got to fall in love with Nutramatics. You really do. We have the most wonderful products, and we have the best business opportunity plan in the direct selling world. We have an absolutely wonderful management in Gladesville with Linda and Peter and the team. It's the most, we used to say it's the best, most unrecognised business opportunity in Australia. It's fantastic. It can be so brilliant in so many different ways. You need to embrace show plan. I know we've all been in lockup, and thank heavens New South Wales is coming out of lockup on Monday. so the girls can get back to face-to-face shows and whatever. You need to embrace show plan and, of course, online selling and direct selling and what have you, because that's where you meet sufficient numbers of people to be able to offer the opportunity to ladies, generally ladies. There are men in the business like Adam as well. And I can tell you a story about a coal miner who came out of the coal mines and became one of the biggest selling presidential directors or senior regional directors back in those days in Australia. But men can really do it all, even though primarily we talk about the wives and the girls doing the work. So embrace show plan. There's nothing complicated about Nutramatics. It's not easy, but it's not complicated. All you need to do really is to go out there and put yourself in front of enough women in the right sort of environment and be enthusiastic about what you have to offer, and you do it through just simply booking and selling and sponsoring and developing people, and by listening and seeing what part of the Nutramatics opportunity you can offer to people. You wouldn't, for example, talk to a flight attendant about how wonderful it is that we go to overseas seminar every year. Just like I remember Gail Dawson is in part of my business, who drives a beautiful Mercedes before she even joined Nutramatics. So she probably wasn't turned on by the opportunity to earn an E30 or whatever they're called, the Hyundai, the i30. Listen and tailor the opportunity to the person or the people that you are talking to. We used to say this many, many times over early on, and that is that you should be out there searching for somebody who's better than you. Try and find somebody who is more enthusiastic, more determined, more driven, more wanting to achieve and make a life for themselves. If you can continually search for people that are better than you, then that's absolutely wonderful. I've already said that Louise's strength is the ability to pass on to people that she has more faith in them than they have doubts in themselves. It's very, very important. I've got here, go the extra mile, bend over backwards to do whatever you can for your team to make their involvement in Nutramatics as wonderful as it possibly can be. And it will be different for absolutely everybody. Everybody's different. Everybody has different aspirations and different opportunities and different circumstances. But we're here, the leaders in Nutramatics are here to do everything we possibly can be for the opportunity to be as wonderful for everybody in the business as it possibly can be. Number 6 I've got here is sponsor, sponsor, sponsor. There is nothing more important in Nutramatics than bringing people into the business. Louise and I lived through the time in Nutramatics where sponsoring used to be very small. They used to be very selective who they sponsored into Nutramatics, and that's why the company didn't really grow very quickly in the 1970s and whatever. But we lived through the stage where a girl called Sandy McDonald came into the business, and she turned Nutramatics upside down by her attitude. She realized very, very quickly that the quickest way to the top in Nutramatics is just to sponsor more people than anybody else. And she did that, and she was successful in the business. And I can remember Imelda Roach, one of the founders of this business, being very concerned in the early times about how many people this young lady was sponsoring. And then as she saw Sandy's success and the success of Louise and Michael and other people, she realized that it really was the way to go. And then she encouraged Sandy to go to all of the other states in Australia and New Zealand and to talk to the girls there about sponsoring and mass sponsoring and bringing lots and lots of people into the business. And nobody's ever failed in Nutramatics by sponsoring too many people. Lots of people have failed by not sponsoring enough. And like I said, look for people that are better for you. The next person that you sponsor could be another Tammy Williams or another Louise Buchner or another Annette French or another Hilary Finch or another Adam. And nobody's ever risen through the ranks of Nutrametics quicker than Adam has, I know. Number 7 I've got here is be loyal, honest, and trustworthy. And this is something that's sadly missing in our world a lot of the time today. Be loyal, honest, and trustworthy, so that your people love to follow somebody who knows where they're going and who can be relied on. Next, I've got have a ball doing it. If you're not enjoying what you're doing, I've said to girls many, many times, if you're not having fun and you're not enjoying what you're doing, go out and do something else. Life's too short to be doing something for any amount of time that you don't enjoy. So one of the wonderful things in Nutramatics is that you can mold the Nutramatics opportunity into whatever it is that you want. There are very few rules and regulations in Nutramatics as to what you can do and what you can't do, and you can run your business however you want to. And if it makes you happy and it works for you, then that's the way to do it. And I've often said to girls that when Nutramatics releases something, when Nutramatics have a new initiative or a new idea, a new program or something or other, what you do as a manager in Nutramatics is you have a look at it and you decide whether it works in your business and it's what the sort of thing that you would like to do. And if it is, then you implement it. And if it's not, then you continue to do what you've been doing that works for you. And we're blessed that we're in a business where we can do that. It's really amazing. One of the last things that I would suggest to anybody who's able to, if you haven't already got the NutriWare program, make some inquiries and get the NutriWare program. The NutriWare program can be downloaded free of charge off the internet. You can trial it, and then you can choose to buy it if you want to. It still costs very little. It's like $100 or $150 a year or something like that. Louise and I invested $3,000 to buy this program in the 1970s, and it was developed by a couple of guys who worked in the IT department of Nutramatics. And I'm not sure about you anymore, Louise, but I certainly couldn't run my Nutramatics business without NutriWare. It's absolutely wonderful, and I would suggest that you do it. The only problem might be that it's only the people who are downline from one of the original people who invested $3,000 each. So make some inquiries of your upline if you're interested in buying that program.
I've put the link in the chat box as well for anyone that wants to click on the link.
Wonderful, Adam. That's great. Now, Adam said to me that there might be some guys listening too, or that I should maybe touch on guys in the business and what have you. And what I was going to say was I already told you of my negativity at the outset, that I thought it was girls playing with lipsticks and that it wasn't going to amount to anything, but it did amount to something quite substantial. And I was going to say men can do it all in Nutramatics. Adam's a perfect example of that. Quite often we play the supportive role, but a guy can go out and do show plan. Ask Steve Gagan. He can go out there. I remember the guy that I mentioned earlier on who used to be a coal miner, and somebody said to him as a joke one day, "Why don't you go out and do some Nutramatics shows, Steve?" And Steve did. And Steve was more successful than his wife. He outsold his wife. He sponsored more than his wife. He booked more shows than his wife. He did it more quickly, and quite often would come home and watch the end of the football with me on a Friday night, having completed his show already. And Steve and Sadie took out the top awards at International Seminar at their particular level. I remember one year they also earned a $3,000 cash bonus. And they just rocketed through the business because they were both working at it. And he was very, very successful. So guys can do everything in Nutramatics. But what I suggest that you do if you're in a relationship, and I remember, and Louise, you'll remember this too, that Imelda Roach used to always say there's only 2 types of successful women in Nutramatics: single ones, and the others, the married ones that have the active support of their partner.
Yep.
Because if you're in Nutramatics and you're married or you're in a relationship and the person that you're living with doesn't want you in the business and is anti and whatever, then it probably won't work. You're either single or you have the active support of your partner. what I would suggest to any guy who's interested in the business, the first thing you do is learn the BOP. Learn it inside out, backwards, upside down. It's the best thing that you can do for your partner is for you to understand how this business works. You mightn't be out there doing it. You mightn't be doing the shows or the sponsoring or the training or the development or anything else. But if you understand how it works, then you can be supportive in the right way. And we're all different. Everybody's different. Everybody's in different circumstances. So just because I might have been able to do the bookwork and the ordering and packing and whatever in Nutramatics, you might not be in a position to do that. You might not have the time. So what you need to do is you need to sit down with your partner and work out what it is that you can contribute, what it is that she wants you to contribute, and then find a middle ground somewhere of what you can do as a partnership. Because I know there are lots of girls out there that the last thing they would want is for their husbands to be doing their orders. I understand that as well, that they want to be involved in that as well. Many of my girls say that when we're talking about deliveries, we're generally talking about show plan deliveries, so the deliveries for a show, and they don't want their husbands to do the delivery because they want to use that opportunity of talking to the hostess some more and what have you and building a better relationship. So it is different for everybody. So work out what works for the two of you. I've told you what I did. Focus on sponsoring. I remember Louise and I used to run an introductory course for new consultants, and there was a questionnaire at the end of that course that they used to complete, and the first question on the form used to be, what's the Nutramatics philosophy? And the Nutramatics philosophy has always been to help people help other people. That was there from the outset in 1968, even though sometimes we remember guys referring to it on stage at seminars or whatever as the philosophy was to help people help themselves, but it wasn't really that at all. It's to help people help other people. But we started to find that we were putting so much emphasis on sponsoring in our training that people used to answer that question under what's the Nutramatics philosophy. They started writing sponsor, sponsor, sponsor. It's true. And they actually thought that was the Nutramatics philosophy. So the message was getting through. The message was working. And as a guy in the business, one of the best things you can possibly do when your partner comes home from a Nutramatics show is say, did you sponsor anybody? For heaven's sakes, don't say, how much did you sell? Right? That's not the important part. Ask them if they had sponsored anybody. Did you make any sponsoring appointments? Did you meet any potential girls? Did you meet the right sort of people and whatever? So I've covered what Imelda wrote, said, if you can't help your partner in the business, at least give her the freedom to do what she wants to do and how she wants to do it. You'll be paid back many, many times over. As I've said also, the Nutramatics business can be hugely profitable. Do you remember, Louise, what your biggest check was?
Probably about 44,000.
Yeah, I thought it was bigger actually. Back in the days when we had 3 businesses, I think there was a month. I think we had a month where we got paid $70,000 for the month.
That's correct.
It's amazing. It's really incredible. So when people ask me what Nutramatics is about, I normally say to them, it's quite simple and straightforward. It's about earning opportunity. You can earn a little bit of pocket money, or you can earn some real money, or you can earn an awful lot of money, depending on whether you fall in love with the business and how much time you've got to develop to the business, how many people you sponsor, and how fortunate you are to meet the right sort of people. And Louise and I have gone through probably 100,000 consultants in our time, and dozens of managers in that time, and it is sad when some of them leave and what have you, but you won't have any of that wonderful development and growth and friendship and whatever if you don't sponsor them in the first place. So it's about income. It's about driving company cars. I went the other day, Louise, to the place where you were presented with your first ever Nutramatics company car. Do you remember where that was?
Oh, it was something or other house.
It was in Ashfield.
Yes.
Yeah. And do you remember what sort of a car it was?
My first car, Toyota Corolla station wagon.
Corona, I beg your pardon.
Corona, that's
Toyota
it.
Corona station
Corona
wagon.
station wagon.
Yeah. And we've had so many wonderful cars since then. I've spent the last couple of weeks down in Jindabyne helping Ricky and Renee with homeschooling and getting their house ready for sale and all sorts of things. And to drive my Tesla to Jindabyne, it gets all the way to Cooma free of charge, and I go to the charging station in Cooma, Tesla supercharging station, pop it in for 10 minutes, and then it's got enough electricity to get me all the way to Jindabyne and the snowfields and whatever, and then I plug it in there. It costs nothing. The car is the cheapest car you could ever drive in the world. It's absolutely wonderful. And I know Adam said at the outset that I'm the first one to have a Tesla 3 Performance. Yes, that's true, but we have to remember that Diana Perza actually beat me with
the Tesla.
She asked me about the Tesla, and then she ordered one, and she ordered the long range version rather than the performance version. So she actually had the first Tesla in the Nutramatics fleet. And I'm sure in weeks to come and months to come, there's going to be lots and lots of them. You know that there are NRMA superchargers or NRMA charging stations all over Australia where you can just simply drive up, plug in, and it's absolutely free. The electricity costs you nothing whatsoever. Here at home, it helps that we've got 73 solar panels on the roof, and that charges the Tesla free of charge every day when the sun comes up as well. So it's really wonderful. And we've had so many beautiful cars. I remember having a Club Sport as a Nutramatics company car, and anybody who knows about Holden V8 Club Sports and whatever, people would have thought, how could you possibly have a company car that's a Club Sport in a cosmetic industry business? And I remember one year Nutramatics had changed their supplier for the manager's cars, and we were going to, I think, Ford Fiestas or something rather like that. And the guy from Ford was there at the company doing a big spiel about how wonderful it was that Ford had now gotten the Nutramatics contract to present cars. And on the same day, I was actually being presented with a $90,000 Holden Grange that was parked out in front of all of the little cars. And I think he was a little bit disappointed that it wasn't a Ford. The third leg of what the Nutramatics opportunity is really all about is the opportunity to travel. And I know Louise is excited about, and Louise and Adam are excited about going to Queenstown. Queenstown, if you haven't been there, is beautiful. It's one of the loveliest places. I remember Adam skiing there when he was, 2 or 3, maybe something like that, very, very, very young. And it's lovely to see that we still have the overseas trips in the Nutramatics opportunity, because Tupperware haven't had it for forever, and we still have that opportunity. And the fact that we, went across the North Atlantic on the QE2, and we did the hokey pokey in the belly of the pyramids in Egypt, and we tripped around the Caribbean on our own personal aeroplane, and we did all these most wonderful, wonderful things. And I'm sure there's going to be lots of wonderful seminars coming up again once we get over this COVID nonsense and we're all able to fly again. But the opportunity to see the world is absolutely amazing. And I really believe that it broadens the mind to see the rest of the world. It's really wonderful. And the fourth part of our wonderful Nutramatics opportunity, of course, is the fact that you do all this in your own way, with the freedom to do what you want to do, when you want to do it, how you want to do it, how quickly you want to do it, without anybody telling you what to do. I remember I've said many, many times to lots of seminars and what have you, when I worked in the Commonwealth Bank in the city, I used to have to start in the morning at 8:01, not 8 o'clock, 8:01, and leave in the afternoon at 5:06 because somebody had worked out that worked out to be exactly the right number of hours or whatever, and it was nonsense. And they tell you when to have lunch and when to go on holidays. And every time I put in my leave application to go on holidays, it was always the wrong time, and they always tried to stop me from having holidays. And I would simply say to them, but I have to go at that particular time because Nutramatics are flying us to Singapore, or Nutramatics are flying us to Hawaii, and whatever. I have to go then. And that was one of the things that led to my leaving the bank eventually, was that there were just too many trips. I think shortly after I left the bank, Louise and I and the senior people in Nutramatics, 40 of us, tripped completely around the world courtesy of Nutramatics. And imagine going around the world, all expenses paid, courtesy of Nutramatics. And I remember the trip exactly. We went Sydney, Los Angeles. We went from Los Angeles to Mexico City to help launch Nutramatics Mexico. We're actually handing out pamphlets in the streets of Mexico City in Spanish, launching Nutramatics Mexico. We were treated to a bullfight by the general manager of Nutramatics Mexico, who promptly got in the ring and got himself gored by one of the bulls because he was too silly. We flew from Mexico City up through Dallas, Fort Worth to New York, where a Nobby had an apartment, and we had drinks in his apartment, and we were celebrating the 30th, I think, or 35th anniversary of Nutramatics USA back in those days. We went to a Broadway show from his apartment, and then a little while later we flew from there to Paris, and from Paris to where did we go to then?
Cairo.
To Cairo. To Cairo, and through the Sinai Desert, across the Suez Canal, through the Sinai Desert. We went and stayed on a kibbutz in Israel for a week. We flew across the Mediterranean. Then, first of all, we went to Tel Aviv. Stayed in a beautiful hotel on the beach in Tel Aviv. We flew across the Mediterranean to Athens. Spent some time in Athens. Then hopped on a cruise ship and did a cruise around the Greek islands with Bill and Imelda Roach at the time. And I remember that there were two stories on this little ship that was going around the Mediterranean. The guys were all upstairs getting drunk with Bill Roach on the top deck, and the girls were all downstairs playing makeup with Imelda Roach. It was really quite funny. And we had the best time traveling all around the Mediterranean. And we then went back to Athens. We flew to Singapore, and from Singapore, after having some time there, we flew home. So it was all expenses paid, 4 weeks around the world. I remember in Israel, we stayed at the King David Hotel in Jerusalem. And on one occasion, when there was a free night, a few of us got together and we decided that we were going to go to an Italian restaurant around the corner from the hotel. And at the end of the night, when we'd had a wonderful meal and lots of drinks and whatever, and we went to pay the bill, the waiter said, "I'm sorry, sir, the bill has already been fixed up." And Bill Roach had found out where we went, and he rang and paid the bill, even though he wasn't even part of the night. It was amazing. It was just, that's the sort of people that they are and that they were. So that's my story and my suggestions. Fall in love with Nutramatics and make of it whatever you want. It's a fantastic opportunity. They're beautiful, beautiful products. It's been so good to our family. You know that Louise and I are in the business, and Adam's trying to overtake both of us. And Ricky is now in the business as well and doing very well. So he's a full-time firefighter and all firefighters work really hard. They just do it just 2 days out of every 8. And he has the rest of the time to put to his Nutramatics business. It's been for me personally, I've had a wonderful, wonderful life. Most of you know by now that I'm remarried to a lovely Singaporean girl called Susan. We've been married now for over 11 years. Susan was actually a Nutramatics consultant in Western Australia under Peggy Clifford 30 and 40 years ago. And we didn't even know each other back then, but she's now very much of my continued success in Nutramatics. She puts an awful lot of effort into our Nutramatics business here. Susan runs a huge multi-million-dollar pharmaceutical marketing company, but she always has time for the girls and loves Nutrametics and loves spending time with our managers, and is already looking forward to coming to Queenstown and the seminars to come and what have you. So that's me, guys. It's 8:45. I'm not sure if you want to take any questions, Adam, or
Thanks so much, Dad. Definitely, I've got lots of notes that I've written down that I would love to share as a recap, but I would love to open it up. Does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask? We can have a bit of a Q&A. I will pull it up the chat box, or if you want to unmute, feel free to do so.
Lucia's written, "You are an inspiration, Michael. Thank you for sharing your story."
Thank you, Lucia. And Lucia and a couple of others, and Louise and I had our first $1 million year together.
You did.
Many, many, many years ago, and I still have the photo of us sitting on a bench together. And Lucia was there at the same time. Yeah, Lucia and Louise.
Wow. Yep.
Love that. We got lots of great comments. Dad, sounds amazing. Would love to go to Cairo. Me too. Mimi said, thanks. Brilliant story. Karima said, thank you. So there's lots of amazing messages. And I'd love to do, I guess, a little recap on what I really, truly loved about this session and some amazing words of wisdom. When you build your Nutramatics business, you can sell it. Isn't that cool? Not that you maybe would, but as Dad suggested, but it's a business that it becomes saleable, which is really unique, I think, and a lot of people don't know that. It's not something we talk about.
It's an asset.
It's an asset that you
and Ricky and Adam, that Ricky's just about to pay his last payment for the Thompson business.
Yeah, so my brother bought a business 3 years ago, and it's just paid itself off as well. So
today,
what an incredible and $1 million plus business that can pay itself off in 3 years is pretty exceptional. I remember speaking with my brother, and he said, what do you think about this? What are your thoughts? He's like, I can't find another business that I could go into where I could, it could do what it does for 3 years and pay itself off. Like, that's just incredible. So
imagine buying a supermarket, buying a newsagent or a shoe shop or a coffee shop in this day and age, and trying to even make a profit in the first 3 years. Yep.
Well, we were talking to Rick, one of their girls in Jindy owns the bakery there, and she was saying she worked 7 days a week for 5 years before she took her first dollar. So yeah, it's incredible the opportunity that we have with the support of the company and the leaders and everyone to be able to run it and build our own business. More faith in others than they have doubts in themselves. What an amazing lesson to be able to have. I'm going to pin that up on my wall and continue to remember that. Are you in love with Nutrametics? I'd love everyone to pop in the chat box. Are you in love with Nutrametics? Or do you need to find the version of Nutrametics and the way of working your business that is enjoyable, that does bring you life, that is fun, that is exciting? Because I love that. I love that I can step into event coordinator mode when I'm planning events. I love that I can go into social media mode. I love that I can work in the back end or be out in front of people, and you can really work your business any way that you choose. Embrace show plan, workshops, group presentations. They definitely are the best way to fast track your business, to book, to sponsor, to sell, because you're meeting the perfect amount of people by doing that.
And do everything at the one event.
Everything at the one event. Yes. Awesome. It's not easy, but it's a simple process to book, sponsor, sell, and develop. And you can really tailor the opportunity to suit you. Search for someone that's better than you. I had Lynn Perkins message me saying she loves that. She's going to pop that up and continue to look for people and girls in her team that are better than her. Sponsor, 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 and sponsor. The more people, sponsor more people than anyone else. I loved that. Isn't that great? If you're wanting
Lots
to
of more people than Adam Buchner. Yep.
was 29 last month, so I'm up for the challenge. But I do that with people in my team as well. I was sharing with Mum. We have an incredible director in my team, Liz Tester, and Liz sponsored 25 last month. And whenever I see Liz's sponsoring go up, I get on the phone, and I continue to race that race with her, because that's so much fun to be able to do that together. And it does push you to be able to do that. So see if you can match your best people, or find someone that's incredible at sponsoring. No one has ever failed by sponsoring too many people. So I love that lesson. Be loyal, be honest, and be trustworthy. Know where you are going. Know where you are going. And I think I was sitting down doing my vision board during the week, and as we come into the Christmas period, as we come into 2022, it is a really great time to sit back and reflect. And things may have changed for you. You might have new goals. You might have new dreams. I was looking at going, what am I going to put on my vision board for the next 12 months? Where am I headed? So take some time to be able to work that out, because that will really, really benefit you moving forward. Have a ball doing it. Mold the opportunity to yourself and have so much fun. Learn the business opportunity plan for the guys or the partners. But also for you, if you're wanting to know how to really maximize your income in the business opportunity plan tells you how to maximize it. I think I got that from you, Dad. I studied the business opportunity plan, and definitely love being able to know how I get paid. And I know what's going to come into my bank account approximately each month, and how I can really maximize my earnings.
Yep.
Help people, help other people. Live that philosophy. I'm enjoying my broaden the mind. Broaden the mind.
Travel.
Yes, travel. Broaden your mind to travel. And
Do you remember Shanghai, Adam? I bet you that broadened your mind somewhat.
Definitely did. When I was 16, Mum and Dad put me on a plane to China. Met them at the airport there, and I've had the opportunity to be able to travel the world, courtesy of Mum and Dad and their love for travel, and through the Nutrametics business. So that's been incredible. I remember going to Switzerland as a kid, and to Germany, and to Holland, and traveling to Canada and Alaska, and all throughout China and Japan. And it's just really was broadening of the mind, and it made me so grateful for where we live and what we have here. And I think it's a beautiful gift that we will be able to instill in others in the future, starting with Queenstown. And freedom to do it in your own way. So create this opportunity, create this business however you see fit for you, and go out there to create that bright future that we all want for you. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight. We so appreciate you taking the time for you and your business, and to hear from our special guest speaker. So thanks again, Dad. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks,
Dad.
Mike. That was absolutely brilliant, and some great memories. And I encourage you to dream big, to really go, okay, if it's possible for one person, it's possible for many. And if it's possible for two young people who were brought up in Housing Commission, then it's possible, neither of who went to university, then we both believe it's possible for everyone to have the lifestyle of the rich and famous.
We went to the Nutramatics University.
We sure did. We spent many hours at that university. And I do remember sometimes, though, I would be in the conference room, and you may have escaped with a couple of the guys in a different conference room because you were a little bit thirsty.
I remember Imelda Roach catching me on the wrong side of Hawaii.
But you know what? We did work hard. We had a lot of fun. We got to spend a lot more time with our kids than we would have if we'd had two full-on careers. And we gave, both the boys have become very adventurous and very much entrepreneurial.
I'm very spoiled.
Yes,
I'm very grateful.
Too spoiled, but yeah, they got grateful once they reached over 30, so that was great. But I do want to let you know about a brilliant guest speaker that we have for the first Thursday night in November, which will be our Creating a Bright Future session. And that speaker will be another male in the family, and that would be Adam Buechner. So very exciting. I do invite you to join Adam. I also invite you to take the opportunity. Linda Conestabo in the Zoom before this released our sponsoring offer, which starts tomorrow morning, the 8th of October, and goes through till the 18th of October inclusive. So till midnight, 1 in the morning, whatever. Grab your friends on Facebook that are still awake and sponsor them. And the Join Now gift for the next few days is, Adam, I think you might even have a picture. It's the Irina body scrub with the coffee in it.
Just transferring this image to the computer.
And the face and body magic circle erasers. So you can use the body scrub with your big body cleansing pad, and you can use, and you've got a face one there as well. And the offer, Adam, you worked it out for us?
Oh, that's not it.
No, that was the last one, darling.
That was the last one, but
Yeah.
it's just as exciting.
You just did it for us, and it is valued at over $130, I think.
Yes, valued at over $130, includes everything that you usually receive for your $20 as part of the VIP membership, but also the body duo. So it's the magic circle, the beauty halo for the face, but also the one for the body that you can use to exfoliate and to buff the body. And then the Irina coconut and coffee body scrub. So valued at over $130. What a great opportunity to start sponsoring people now so they can do their Christmas shopping and make the most out of an incredible October, November, and December.
And any guest that is on watching the Christmas Zoom release on Sunday, perhaps you could offer them the opportunity to have their own VIP account, and every consultant, every manager, every director will have the opportunity to purchase either 1 or 2 Christmas packs. And I didn't know how much they are, but I think you know how much the November pre-launch pack
I was
is.
guessing.
Oh, you were
I don't know.
guessing. Adam thought, he told someone it was $299.
I think it's around.
I thought he knew, but you can have 1 or 2 packs. And I highly recommend that you take advantage of this offer and have 1 pack for you to show everyone, to take wherever you might be allowed to go, or do a Zoom and show people on Zoom, and the other pack to lend out, to send with some of the essential workers to their place of work. I remember Adam taking Nutrametics products down to the motor mechanic shop because Rick started off his working life as a motor mechanic apprentice. So the guys all at the motor mechanic shop bought some things, and he just got an order, Adam, from your sister's daughter, Michelle, for the preschool, a corporate Christmas gift order.
Yeah.
So that's excellent, because
The relatives have to share the orders
Michael's
around.
sister
Because
loves Adam.
There's lots of, I know, my auntie sometimes places orders with me, sometimes with dad, sometimes with Rick, sometimes with mum. So
Oh, never with me. Never
okay.
with me.
She shares the love. She's the most beautiful, gorgeous sister-in-law in the world, your sister, Michael. Just a beautiful person.
Runs in the family.
It does. And lots of love to Susan and the boys, and lots of love to each of you, and hope to see you on Sunday for a big Christmas release.
We've got our Christmas tree ready.
Have you got a little sneak peek of the top like Lynn does?
No,
Lynn,
they're all in hiding. We've
Lynn,
locked
you
them up.
did the most extraordinary job at our board meeting as well. So thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Take care and
Bye.
good night.
Bye.
Good night.